In this episode of the Business of E-commerce, I talk with Bertrand about the top 5 highest impact SEO tactics for e-commerce retailers. This is the Business of E-commerce, episode 62. Welcome to the Business of E-commerce, the show that helps e-commerce retailers start, launch, and grow their e-commerce business. I'm your host, Charles Pulaski, and I'm here today with Bertrand. Dale is the founder of Fire&Spark, a results-driven e-commerce marketing agency specializing in search marketing, content marketing, PPC advertising, and social advertising. I've asked Dale on the show today so we can talk about the top 5 high-impact SEO tactics that you should be spending your time on as an e-commerce retailer. So hey Dale, how are you doing today?
I'm pretty good. Thanks for having me. How are you?
Yeah, doing good. Welcome to the show. So to get started, can you tell me a little bit about what Fire&Spark does?
So Fire&Spark is my agency. So we do e-commerce marketing. So I tend to work on the organic SEO side and also analytics. And then my partner runs paid programs for various clients.
Yeah, it's funny you're also in Boston, and I'm not the previous episode I was talking with Ben in Boston and now you, so it's not very often I get to
Yeah, we all
to...
seem to know each other. It's definitely a small community in Boston.
Yeah, it turns out a lot of e-commerce. So I've actually had probably the 5th guest on the show actually from Boston, so it's pretty cool.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so want to kind of go through the strategies for SEO. You mentioned, so we're actually talking at one of the events here in Boston, and I saw some stuff you're talking about. It looked pretty neat. So kind of mapped out 5 different tactics that you would say most e-commerce retailers should at least be looking at or considering, right?
Sure. Yeah. Talking about focus on SEO. So definitely SEO can be hard for e-commerce sites. E-commerce sites tend to have issues like getting links, and getting, if you're reaching out to influencers, a lot of influencers are pay to play nowadays. So that can get difficult.
Yeah, I feel like the influencer thing, it used to be this new concept, and now where people just wanted to be part of it. But now, like you said, you have to basically pay the influencers to even get in the front door. So the tactics have switched in the past couple of years.
Yeah. We do our best to work with influencers that you're either excited about one of the brands that we're representing, or we'll send them a product and ask for an honest review and get a link that way for link building campaigns. So, but times have definitely changed. I mean, when we started doing this 15 years ago, we were actually doing a lot of work in the mommy space. And you didn't even have to send a product, just send an email and they would get excited about it from the picture and the description and write about it based on that.
And now people have realized you need to pay to get on the Instagram, right?
Yeah. Now people realize it has value. So
yep.
Yeah, they're gonna charge for it. Everybody needs to get paid.
All right. So top 5 SEO, and I think SEO tactics, and then I think you had a bonus as well.
Yeah. We definitely wanted to have a little something extra at the end. So We'll go over the bonus later.
All right. So what will be the first kind of thing people should start with when looking at SEO?
Yeah. So, I mean, this gets in the conversation you and I were having a couple weeks ago. So we do a lot of work on a bunch of different platforms, Shopify, Miva, Magento, and then a little bit on WooCommerce. But all of the platforms make it, or try to make it easy to optimize product pages. So for us, it really starts with looking at a site, looking at it product by product, and doing some keyword research for each individual product. So it starts with the product details. I mean, obviously we want to get that copy on the page, but we're looking for descriptive words. And I'll give a quick example here. So you can imagine one of our clients is selling an ergonomic chair. So it's an ergonomic desk chair. So we would describe it as ergonomic. We describe it as an office chair, things like that. But what they weren't talking about is things like, what problems does it solve? So the chair would solve the problem of back pain or neck pain or something like that. So that's something that we also want to think about when we're looking at keyword research for product pages. And then what are the use cases? So for this chair example, the obvious use case is like in an office environment. So we'd look at office chair, but maybe also home office or something like that. So when we're looking at keyword research for product pages, we're really looking at the descriptive words, problems the product solves, use cases, and the different places you might be using the product, and then synonyms for all of those words. And of course, we want to get those words on the product page. So we're optimizing the product descriptions and H1s and title tags, really important. Not so much URLs. I always get the question if we should be stuffing keywords into URLs. That's old school, doesn't work anymore. But we do love to get keywords into title tags.
Yeah, I feel like the title tag is still one of those things, just because you can't go too far with it, right? There's like a limited number of characters they kind of recommend, and anything over, I don't know what the number is nowadays, but there's some number, so you can't say let's put 1,000 characters in there, right? You need to.
Yeah. We try to keep it under 65. It's less than that on mobile, and Google's going to look for keywords in the beginning of the title tag, so we try to fit what we can towards the beginning. But we're talking about product pages, so. We're optimizing a product page. You can only fit so many keywords in the title tag.
Yep. And then what do you do? Because I think we were talking about this before too, where a lot of folks, they're getting this recliner, a chair from their manufacturer, and they're just taking these like descriptions, like right from the manufacturer, and just like slamming them into the shopping cart. And
yeah, the problem with that is duplicate content. So Google doesn't need another page with the same exact description of the same product that exists on hundreds of other sites. So that's really difficult. If you're using the manufacturer's descriptions, you're really going to be competing with a lot of other sites that have the same exact description. And in that situation, Amazon wins is really the way it ends up working. So what I would do is try to write your own descriptions, or maybe you're writing articles or something unique on your site, so Google can rank that.
Yeah, and that's one of those things too. If you're just taking it from the manufacturer, it's not that hard to beat them, right? A lot of those descriptions are very, very short. They just kind of say the blue widget, and you can just it just takes a little work. And if you just kind of go through and start rewriting them, I feel like a little can go a long way there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it depends on the size of your site, obviously. We've worked with sites with 20,000 products, so that can get to be a lot. But it depends on what products you're selling and where they're coming from and all that good stuff. It's obviously a lot easier if you're a brand selling your own products, because then you have more control over descriptions and who else is selling and all that good stuff.
And then at that point, you probably don't if you're a brand at that point, you're not running into this issue in the first place, most likely, unless you have, 100 resellers, because just folks don't have the same product, and you had to write the description from somewhere. So you probably
when you're small, you don't have that problem. We work with some larger brands that are competing against Macy's and Amazon for rankings.
Yep. Yeah. So in that case, basically, once you're competing if you're reselling a product, essentially drop shipping, anything like that, this description, it gets even, now you're competitive, because now you're just not competing with other, other products, but you're competing with other retailers selling the exact same product. So now you've just like upped the ante.
Yeah, absolutely. So, from an SEO perspective, you would want to be one of the highest authority sites with that product description. And then you're usually competing against Amazon or somebody else who's more established.
Are you seeing folks do kind of like longer form or video or anything like different there, or is it still just good descriptions, or is there something else you can kind of?
Well, so Google is a text-based search engine. So if you want to get, you want to get traffic from Google.
Yeah.
So text is really the way to go.
Yep.
I do see people doing video and all sorts of other types of content, but it depends on the space. Just a quick example, we worked with someone in the automotive space who was selling a bunch of automotive products, and in that space it made sense to do how-to videos. So maybe how-to videos make sense in your space. if people are naturally looking for help, or they've got an issue where they would want to watch a video to solve the problem.
Got it.
Other people are going to Google, they're looking for a specific product, and they probably have no intention of watching a video. They're just looking for a scented yoga candle or whatever it is.
Yep. Okay. All right. So tip number 2.
Oh yeah. So then you and I had also talked about targeting gift keywords. So a lot of products a lot of brands have giftable products, and then a lot of other sites that might be doing drop shipping also have products that might be giftable. There is a whole world of gift keywords out there. So you could imagine anniversary gifts, toddler gifts, groomsmen gifts, and then there's holidays, Christmas gifts. I mean, we looked into this a while back, found thousands of gift keywords, which is insane when you think about it. So the key there is to really look at what gifts make sense what gift keywords make sense for your products. So you could start by looking at who's buying it, what are they buying it for, is this something people buy for anniversary gifts, that sort of thing. If you've got a larger site with more products, you might look at, a subset of products. You build out a collection or a category with anniversary gifts or something like that. But the gifting space is huge. People are going to Google and they're typing in, gift for my fiance, bridesmaid gifts. These are some good keywords to go after, and we've seen some good results for long tail versions of those keywords.
Yeah, I love that idea. I don't hear that very often either. I don't have many people. I honestly don't have many people doing that. And you could stretch that to like almost any product category, like automotive, like new car parts for dad, or whatever, or the scented candles for Mother's Day, like things like that. That you could just you could use this in almost any site. Just a gift to someone. It would make a good gift.
Yeah, I mean, most of the people I talk to have giftable products. So it's definitely something that you want to think about and figure out the right occasions for the products that you're selling. And like I said, if you have a ton of products, then it could end up being a ton of occasions, which is awesome. It's just more content for you to write, more collections, whatever it turns out to be.
Yeah, and I feel like the more of them you do, I mean, you could even go for some long tail ones and do the auto parts for mom and things like that, and you will probably be number 1 in that search, and you could really just kind of crank out some different ideas here. And it's really just like coming up with some ideas, essentially list out every holiday. And there's probably a lot of long tail holidays out there that you could go for Valentine's Day, but there's probably a lot of them out there that people aren't really going after so hardcore that you could kind of.
Yeah, so that's a good segue into number 3 that you and I had talked about. So because we really look at the gifting occasions separate from holiday. So the holiday season is the end of the year. Everybody gets excited about ranking for and making as many sales as possible during the end of the year holidays. But there are other holidays. You mentioned Valentine's Day, which is coming up, which a lot of retailers are getting excited about. But there's also Mother's Day. So we have a jewelry client that we worked with who sells jewelry for moms, and Mother's Day is a big event for her. So when we're looking at the holidays, I think it really starts with understanding that there are many holidays, exactly like you were saying, and it's not just Black Friday, Christmas, even though that's a ton of traffic. Like there's more than that. So of the products that you're selling, where what holidays are the right holidays? And once again, if you're selling a lot of products, then you could put together a program where you're targeting a number of different holidays and then choosing the right products and putting together content for that.
So then have specific product pages for a catalog of products that fall into your Independence Day, whatever collection, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Father's Day, Secretary's Day. I mean, there's so many of them. It really gets out of control. But people are searching for all of these things.
Yeah, I feel like, and this is something that, again, one of these things people aren't really going after. So like the competition here is, I'm guessing, relatively, you're not going after hundreds of folks, or maybe not, but you could get pretty unique and start thinking of some really like long tail keywords where you could rank pretty easily up in the top.
Yeah, I mean that ends up being things like teacher appreciation gifts is a good keyword, but that there's competition for that specific keyword, so you end up going long tail from there, and looking at keywords like teacher appreciation gift for music teacher, like things like that, and really start to get into this realm of keywords that have non-zero value and not a ton of competition, but are really relevant to some products that you are selling. Because another thing you and I had talked about, keywords that are like what makes a high value keyword. So obviously we want high volume, but we would ideally want low competition, and that's hard. So you end up somewhere in the middle. But the keywords you're going after also need to be relevant to the products that you have, obviously, because that's what's going to determine whether they convert or not.
Do you have any kind of tool recommendations to help out with ideas around that? I feel like, start off with some brainstorming, but I feel like there's some tools out there that kind of nudge people in the right direction.
Yeah, there's a ton of them. It really depends on how much you have to invest in software. Ahrefs is a good one that we use internally. I think the price on that one's like $200 a month or something. And then Keyword Spy, and I'm trying to think of all of them off the top of my head. We use the keyword planner in AdWords, which is now Google Ads. And that's a great free tool. The problem with that tool is that it's really geared towards paid keywords as opposed to organic keywords. A lot of people don't realize that. So that's one thing you need to watch out for there.
So you use that and you kind of extrapolate out, okay, here's the paid, but I can at least gives you a weighted type of thing, right? And so Mother's Day versus Mother's Day in this long tail, it's 10% less, or it's a fifth, or whatever it is of the main keyword.
Yeah, I mean it's great for keyword expansion. So like you're saying, type in Mother's Day and see what other keywords are out there. There's also the keyword.io tool, which I've used. So you get keywords from there, but we would plug the keywords into one of our paid tools to get organic search volume, rather than the paid search volume, which can be hard to interpret.
Gotcha. Okay. And then next on your list, you had some stuff about alternatives to writing content.
Yes, I do remember this one. You and I were talking about basically what it comes down to is with SEO, the standard process, we're trying to determine what keywords we want to rank for, and then everybody knows content is a good thing on the web. It's the way that I look at it is every piece of content that you publish is like a lottery ticket where it might rank for something valuable, which is awesome. You might get some traffic, you might make some sales. The hard part is that content can be expensive and time consuming to write. So, if you and I sit down and we come up with 100 of these gift keywords that we want to rank for, it is going to be time consuming to sit down and write 100 articles. So what we like to do is to recommend collections or categories depending on what platform you're on. I mean, if you're on Shopify, it's a collection. You can create a collection of toddler gifts or teacher appreciation gifts for music teachers or whatever it is. We're going pretty long tail here, but you can create that collection, add some products to it, as long as it's actually useful. I always like the idea of putting a few sentences at the top to describe the collection using some of the keywords that you want to go after, so that you're adding some more copy to the page. But that can be a quick way as an alternative to writing content or writing articles.
Okay, so basically building these almost like a collection of collections, essentially.
Yeah, well, yeah, like a collection of products.
Products, okay. And then how much, writing long form content is obviously hard. What's like the minimum you can write in these collections? Like, are you just writing a little 2-sentence blurb up top, or like how much work is going to each one of these?
Like 2 or 3 sentences at the top is what we would do. And if your site has any authority, you should be able to get them ranked for some long tail keywords. I mean, if you take this strategy and you're going after the keyword Mother's Day, that's going to be very hard. But like we were talking about the long tail versions of that keyword, you should be able to get some traffic.
Okay. So, and the benefit here is like the sky's the limit on these. Like, it's not like these lottery tickets don't cost very much. So you create a couple of these at a time and just kind of keep rolling through them. And as you come up with an idea, try it. And it doesn't really like cost anything to keep adding them.
Yeah, I mean, it costs you the time to curate the collection. So what products do you want to put in this particular collection? We've gone as far as like uh, gifts for toddlers, age 3, and then another one for age 4. I guess they're not really toddlers anymore, but for children age 2, and then children age 3, and because people are searching for that. I know I do several times a year, birthdays and at the end of the year for my 2 kids. But we've created collections like that based on whatever products you have.
Yeah, I feel like this is like a much more approachable way to generating content too. And it's not because everyone kind of has the idea we're going to go out, we're going to blog, we're going to write these long form, very authoritative articles that about the industry, and then you start doing it and realize that's really hard. Like it's gonna like it's gonna take like actually like a couple days to write like a you could spin up garbage, but then no one's reading that. There's really no point. But really the point is like, okay, you need to write something good if you're gonna write, and then that takes a long time and a lot of work. But the collections, I feel like if you know your products, you know your audience, you're familiar with the space, it's something with a lot lower bar to entry. You can create a few of them and try them at least and just see how they rank.
Yeah, absolutely. We've gone through the process of uh, doing keyword research, building a list of 100, sometimes 1,000 of these collections that we want to create, and then larger sites that you might be looking at will generate thousands of these pages and rank for really obscure, long tail keywords based on just tons of different collections that they put up.
And what's something you would do with a client? Is this you would go through and use the tools, start throwing ideas, just whiteboard them, come up with that
So
massive list?
it totally depends on where the client is at. So we've worked with smaller clients who are just getting started. They might need content, they might need authority. We would be talking about how to rank higher for specific keywords. And then larger clients, obviously, they already have a bunch of authority. They probably need content too. They might have some technical issues that we're working on the site. Typically, when you're doing SEO, an SEO project usually starts with a technical audit, like trying to figure out what's broken that needs to be fixed. I think a dirty secret in the industry is that there's so many technical issues that just don't need to be fixed. So that can end up being the hard part. I mean, we'll look at technical issues too, but a lot of them just don't need to be fixed. If it's really not preventing Google from crawling the site, if it's not preventing Google from indexing important pages, then we really care more about authority and content. And that's what we're looking at.
What's an example of a technical thing that doesn't need to be fixed? Because I feel like coming from an SEO guy,
Yeah. I know. I'm not
usually
supposed to say that, by the way.
yeah, usually we talk to
broke my
SEO folks.
car.
They're like, you need to fix everything. Here's the list. You need to hit every and like all the check marks need to be green. If there's one yellow or red, like it's over. But I feel like so
Yeah,
hearing
I mean that bothers me. That bothers me because it's just not true. I mean, the way to look at it is, I mean, Google started a while back, and when Google started indexing the web, there were a lot of broken web pages. So built in Google's algorithms is the fact that like an authoritative, solid piece of content that Google wants to show to people who are searching, it might not be technically perfect. But it's still in Google's best interest to show that piece of content to people. So what Google needs to do is compensate for the fact that it's not technically perfect and show it anyway. And that doesn't mean that you can ignore everything. It really means that you'd want somebody to take a look at what's broken and figure out what you can ignore, and then move forward from there. Like when we do a complete audit, we'll end up, I mean, our complete audit is 60 pages long, so there's a ton going on there, but we'll end up with maybe out of 40 or 50 technical issues, there'll be 5 that we think you need to fix, and then we'll move forward with content and authority, which is more important at that point.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just talking to a prospect here and went to look at their site, and I know I think they do about somewhere in the 7-figure range e-commerce business. And I look at the site, and the homepage title tag is literally home. Like that's I'm like, really? And this is like a relatively large site, and I know they do well. They have that's your title tag? Okay.
Well, so that's something we would want to fix, definitely.
That's some low-hanging fruit. But it's funny, they still actually do okay, even with like it's amazing that Google can still, deal around that. And like, okay, you have the worst title tag on the planet, but that's okay. We're still going to rank you for other things somehow. So it's a good point. Yeah, they can actually still figure out
web.
That.
I mean, we've spent a lot of time obviously looking at websites and looking for technical issues, and the web is pretty darn broken.
Yeah.
From Google's perspective, and it just is from any technologist perspective. So the search engines have to deal with that, and they'd love for you to fix everything and make it perfect, but that's just not always the best use of resources.
Gotcha. All right. I know your 5th thing. I keep wanting to ask about it because I feel like it goes really well into the next point here. So the 5th point that you were going to say on what people should do.
Oh, yeah. So we had talked about internal linking.
Yes.
So I'm trying to figure out where to start here, but with most sites, depending on how big your site is, your authority is really likely going to build up on your homepage, maybe other authoritative pages on your site that are getting links, because primarily authority is coming from links, and that authority will flow through internal links on your site down to product pages. So if you have a large site, we're trying to get a lot of products to rank. So we want as much authority as possible, and we want all of those products to be as few links as possible from the homepage, so they get as much authority as possible. If you have very few products, it's not as much of an issue, because you've got a smaller site. You can get links directly to the product pages, or think about optimizing internal links also. Another thing that I want to point out there is if you're building these holiday pages, so maybe you have a Black Friday page or a Mother's Day page or something like that, one way to promote those pages is through internal linking. So you would link to them in the navigation on your site, and then also you'd want to link to them during the season. You would want to link to them on the homepage, and if they're important enough, put a link in the footer. And these are examples of internal links that could really help important pages to rank. So it really depends on the size of your site and which pages on the site you're trying to drive authority to, and those are the ones you want to link to. And there's a ton more we could talk about in terms of specifics, internal links on product pages, and then specifics of internal linking on category and collection pages. But that's the overview there.
And 2 important things there actually that I want to kind of hit on real quick is, first, you're using the authority of the homepage to then laser focus on saying, okay, I have authority here and I want to redirect that to these very specific pages. So you're able to control whatever you get on the homepage, you can control where that goes essentially. And that's your whole internal linking plan, right?
Yeah. And most sites, the way they're set up, the majority of their links are pointing to the homepage. And these are external links, like other websites that are linking to you. So for most sites, they're building up the most authority on their homepage, and like you said, they can redirect that homepage by linking from the homepage to other pages that are important. It's also possible that you have some other page on your website that's getting a bunch of links and a bunch of authority, and the same principle would apply there.
And then you're essentially you first try to get authority to your site, and then you're essentially directing that laser-like focus. And then the second thing you said is then at certain times, pump up a certain page versus another one. So that Mother's Day, Valentine's Day, a certain time of year around that holiday, that becomes an important link. And other times of year, that kind of falls a little further back, right?
Yeah, so we're prioritizing all of our seasonal pages. So like we might have a site where Black Friday is the most important page, and then Christmas, and then Mother's Day, depending on what the site is. So those are pages that you could leave linked in your footer and your navigation all year round if they're that important. But normally what sites would do is have a section on their homepage where they're rotating important links. And we'd want to, if Mother's Day is coming up, we'd want to get that link on the homepage 45 days beforehand, which is a good rule of thumb, to start to get it ranked and start to get some authority for those keywords.
I like that. It's one of those things, realizing that you have some control of what pages rank higher, and you can't. It's your way of telling Google these are more important now, and realizing that like the retailer themselves has control of that a bit. It's pretty powerful.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's funny. A few weeks ago, I did a episode. I'm curious to get your take on it while we're here on when or if you should be deleting products. Right? That, let's say a manufacturer is discontinued this product, it's never coming back. And I know my opinion. I'm curious to hear yours. What should you do with that product?
Yeah. So what Google would say is, if the product is discontinued, never coming back, then you should 404 the page, because Google does not want to send visitors to your site for that particular product. There are a lot of people who would 301 redirect it. If it's never coming back, it's hard to imagine. So I guess you could 301 redirect it, but a lot of times it's hard to find a page to 301 redirect it to. So 301 redirect it to the homepage. That's really not going to help you, because you've really just swapped out a product page that Google thought was helpful for people who are searching for something specific, and you're giving Google your homepage, which is just not relevant to those searches. So you're going to lose your rankings for those keywords. If it's temporarily out of stock, which is another situation, you could imagine just leave the page up, and Google would send traffic if you had some information about when it was coming back in stock. So that's another situation. So it would make sense for Google to send traffic, because you've got useful information for people.
One thing I've done is leave that page in the catalog, but remove it from the search, remove it from the hierarchy, so it doesn't actually, you can't find it, but Google still has it there, and try to use that to like reference, hey, this has been discontinued, but here are some alternative products, here are some new versions, here are some whatever, and kind of use it that way to say, here are some other things you could do here.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. It's just, Google's going to figure out that there isn't much of value on that page, and eventually just not rank it very well, or send traffic to it.
Gotcha. Okay. So you did have one bonus at the end. So I know you said 5, yeah. But you had 6. So and the 6 is actually really interesting as well. So wanted to kind of, before we run out of time, chat about that a little bit.
Oh yeah. So you and I were talking about link building.
Yes.
So what link building ideas are working. So for people who might be new to SEO, anytime a website links to your website or a page on your website, Google will see that as an endorsement, as like a vote of confidence of your website, your product, whatever it is that the other site is linking to. So just talk about the importance of link building. I had a bunch of sites that I had built a while back and got them to rank for some good keywords, and those projects worked out well for me. I ended up, just as an example here, I ended up spending like a month building the site, and then another month working with a writer to get content and nice descriptions up on the site. And then I spent 3 years doing link building, because link building was by far the most important activity for me on that particular website, because the website was new, it had no authority, there was no brand. Like, I really needed to figure out how I was going to get some authority to rank the content that I had put up on that site. So e-commerce sites are usually hard to get links to. I mean, if I just as an example, if I had a site in, let's say it was a pet supply site, I would love to get a link from the New York Times or maybe a veterinary association website or something like that. Those would be awesome endorsements that would look great in Google's eyes, and I'd have authority, and my product pages would have authority, and that would be great. But it's just extremely difficult in the e-commerce space, especially if you're just getting started, because people, for whatever reason, aren't excited to link to product pages and things like that. A lot of times without getting paid. So what we're doing that's working as of now is really giving away product and asking for reviews. That's like the biggest thing that's actually working. What we'll do is and once again, it really depends on the product and the type of products that you're selling. But if you were, let's say you had a baby product, you're going after the mommy space, you could imagine sending emails to bloggers that you think might be interested in that product, asking them if they want some, let them know that if you send them one, you expect them to write a review. And we've gotten anywhere from a 10 to 20% link rate on campaigns like that. And what that is if I were to put together a list of 100 of those bloggers, we would get 10 or 20 links, which is a good thing. We also talked earlier about how some of them are going to email you back and say, yeah, happy to do it. Here's what it's going to cost you. We generally just skip past those and just continue on as a link building strategy.
So unless they're a huge blogger that have a ton of authority themselves, it probably doesn't make sense to actually buy a link. Like, how would you determine how would you determine the authority of their site, whether it's worth even approaching them, or if they do say, hey, it'll cost X, several $100s, let's say, or something relatively small. Like, when would you determine like this is worth it, or that, maybe they started last week and they have no authority themselves, so this is all just for nothing? Like, how would you know who's big versus not?
The way I would look at it is if you're just getting started with your site, any link is a good link. I mean, just get started. If you're larger, you've already had some press, then you would want to go after higher authority sites. And we use, Moz has a tool, domain authority, where we look at the domain authority and just go based on that. So it really depends on where you're at. And I cannot endorse buying links because it could lead to penalties in Google. So if you were to play by Google's rules and you were writing a check for it, then it's basically advertising. It's not really a link. But there's a lot of gray area there. We can talk about when it's not recorded.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, so you're not writing a check, but you're giving someone, a free 30-day supply of dog food, and in lieu of the link, right? So it's not quite a monetary exchange, but it's a exchange of goods.
Well, it's an incentivized link. I mean, if you talk to Google about it, Google would say like they don't want incentivized links. It really depends on the space you're in and how much competition you have and how aggressive you need to be in your space for the keywords that you're going after, and it depends on what your competition is doing. A lot of this is what I call like competitive gap SEO, where you're taking a look at the specific keywords you want to rank for, who in your space is already ranking for them, what would it take, like you're looking at them to determine like what is their strategy to get that ranking, and then what is the gap? How do you make up that gap? And if you're in a space where everybody's doing this gray hat SEO, that can be difficult. If you're in a space where there are more opportunities where you don't have to be quite as aggressive, then we're really looking at a bunch of different strategies. But yeah, I mean, I call that competitive gap SEO, and looking at your competitors and what are they doing to get the rankings that they've got.
Yeah, and kind of knowing where you are for some, right? So if you're selling the dog food and you're competing with Petco, that's one thing. Versus if you're in some extremely long tail space, there might only be 3 competitors, and like none of them might be doing SEO. So just getting any link is already, you've gone above and beyond. Yeah,
you're way ahead of the game. You might be selling ferret food instead of cat food. And yeah, that works.
So on the ferret food site, you just need a couple ferret bloggers and you're in.
Yeah. A couple ferrets, give them typewriters and you're all set.
All right, perfect. I like that. That's one of those things too. it's good. It's a good place you can just get started, and it doesn't take like a big thing. You just kind of know some bloggers, make a list, and just start approaching people. And it's probably something, I mean, a templated email, it's probably a pretty easy ask. And the bloggers, I'm guessing, get approached all the time. So it's not even like you're, giving them this ridiculous suggestion that you're the first one that came up with this crazy idea.
Yeah. But if you're a brand and you have something unique, it can work really well. If you're a drop shipper and you've got a product that they've seen 5 times before, then that's a really really tough strategy.
Yeah. Is there something you would, let's say you are a drop shipper, is there something you would do?
I mean, then it comes down to all of the, so the traditional strategies around creating content that is linkable and it's better than what else is out there, for in that niche. So, if you're a drop shipper, build a thematic site. So maybe it's groomsmen gifts, maybe it's bachelor party gifts was closely related. I'm trying to think of, so a thematic site, and then building content that's unique in your space. What you don't want to do is try to build the everything store like Jeff Bezos did. Think you compete against Amazon, but what I see brands big and small doing well, especially if they connect with their audience. And then the other thing that I see is these thematic sites that also can find their audience online, and I see those doing well. It's the everything store type of site that is really tough for link building.
So if you're a drop shipper, it's more, the value is more that you're a curator of other people's products and you're more displaying them and talking about them. You're more coming up with, hey, here's just collections of products. I took other people's products. Here's the best. We're distilling it down. Same thing like a fashion retailer. A lot of times, they're not making the clothes, but they're finding other clothing that fit a similar theme. And, these are, pants for these type of people. And you're basically building like a collection around, like you said, a theme, and you're curating it. And that's where the value comes from.
Yeah. And like really knowing your audience. And so and then if you're not on Amazon, you own the customer. So you've got the ability to follow up with email campaigns and all that good stuff. So I'm agreeing with you.
Excellent. All right. Well, I guess that's a good place to end it then. So I think that was super helpful. If folks want to reach out to you, they want to kind of learn more about Fire&Spark, where can they go?
So fireandspark.com, all spelled out. I'm happy to give my email. So my email is Dale, Dale, at fireandspark.com. So yeah, absolutely. If anybody has questions, reach out. Happy to answer SEO questions.
Awesome, Dale. Thanks a lot for that. It was great chatting with you.
All right, cool.